Dr. Anthony Fauci, the former head of the U.S. National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, testified before the House Oversight Committee on Monday. During the hearings, an infectious disease by the name of Marjorie Taylor Greene said Dr. Fauci should be tried for crimes against humanity for shutting down our economy and only, allowing just 1 million Americans to die from COVID? 1 million Americans died from COVID, you moron, Marjorie Taylor Greene. If he didn't shut down the economy, it would have been 2 million. So after Marjorie Taylor Greene launched her tirade on Monday, Dr. Fauci reported more death threats to his home. More death threats. During his testimony, Dr. Fauci said he, his wife, and daughters are constantly receiving death threats, which requires private security around the clock. During his testimony, Dr. Fauci said he worried that the constant death threats he's subjected to will discourage good and decent members of the medical community from coming to work in Washington. That's the entire point of the death threats. Marjorie Taylor Greene, after Monday's hearings, took exception to Congressman Jamie Raskin, the Democrat, accusing her and House Republicans of worshiping Donald Trump. Marjorie, after the hearings, took umbrage. She told reporters that there's only one person she worships, and she used her finest Sunday school words to tell us who that is.
Raskin is in there saying we worship him. Excuse me, let me correct you, and this is really important. I don't worship, I worship God. God. And Jesus is my savior. I don't worship President Trump. And I'm really sick and tired of the bullshit annex I have to deal with constantly from the Democrats.
What a good, she just drips Christianity. It's like she's possessed by Jesus. Then the devout Christian, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who has gone on record saying she believes the Jews killed Jesus. Not that, maybe the Pharisees, a Jewish sect, might have played a role in encouraging the Romans to crucify Jesus, according maybe to the gospel. No, she insists the Jews killed Jesus. That's what she says. All the Jews kill Jesus. I guess that would include Jesus and his disciples as well. They killed Jesus. Effing anti-Semitic, homophobic Marjorie Taylor Greene. Racist. Here she is spewing hatred towards black people. She's in a deep red district in Georgia that's like 80% white. And, she is no longer hiding. She never did hide her racism, but I'm just going to show you what these people this is why Marjorie Taylor Greene is valuable, because she is the Republican Party. She just doesn't filter herself, but this is what they believe. Here she is complaining about Jamie Raskin, accusing her of worshiping Donald Trump.
We have Jamie Raskin in there accusing us of worshiping Trump, worshiping as a convicted felon. He is a convicted well, yeah, so is George Floyd. And everybody, and you all too, the media worship George Floyd. Democrats worship George Floyd. There were riots burning down the fucking country over George Floyd.
Okay, this is who she is saying what the Republicans truly believe, okay? Let's just listen to that again. Pardon the language. This is why I don't curse. This is, if we have any young people listening, cursing is the last vestige of morons. If you're smart, you can find better words. Go ahead, you racist, anti-Semitic, homophobic pig, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Go ahead.
We have Jamie Raskin in there accusing us of worshiping Trump, worshiping as a convicted felon. Well, yeah, so is George Floyd. And everybody, and you all too, the media worship George Floyd. Democrats worship George Floyd. There were riots burning down the fucking country over George Floyd.
You are a racist. That is unadulterated racism. No dog whistles, Marjorie. You are a racist. And that's why you are Donald Trump's opening act at all his rallies, because you are a racist. Nobody was worshiping George Floyd in 2020. Americans were protesting his killing by police officer Derek Chauvin, who, by the way, was sentenced to 22 and a half years in prison for the murder of George Floyd, after he killed George Floyd by kneeling on his neck for 9 minutes while Floyd's arms were tied behind his back as he kept screaming, "I can't breathe." That's why Derek Chauvin was found guilty of second-degree murder, third-degree murder, and second-degree manslaughter. You racist pig, Marjorie Taylor Greene. You are a racist pig. Do you have a problem with Derek Chauvin's conviction, Marjorie Taylor Greene? Do you think he's innocent? Of course you do, because you're a racist pig. You're an anti-Semitic, homophobic, racist pig who harassed Congressman Newman for having a transgender daughter. Congressman Newman was on this show, and Marjorie Taylor Greene was harassing the Congresswoman for having a transgender daughter. Well, let's clear some stuff up. I do this every 6 months because the Republicans keep repeating the lie that Black Lives Matter protesters were violent. They weren't. Kyle Rittenhouse was violent. The white idiot who brought an AR-15 to Kenosha, Wisconsin, and killed 2 Black Lives Matter protesters and injured 1. The Black Lives Matter protesters were peaceful, nonviolent. But don't go by me. Let's read the Washington Post. This is from Erica Chenoweth and Jeremy Pressman, October 16th, 2020. Washington Post. This summer's Black Lives Matter protesters were overwhelmingly peaceful. Our research finds police and counter-protesters sometimes started the violence. Gee, you think? Who do you think burnt down the police precinct in Minnesota? It was a white guy. And they were allegedly, the police were destroying evidence. This is from Time Magazine. This is Sonia Mansour, September 5th, 2020. The vast majority of Black Lives Matter protests, more than 93%, have been peaceful, according to a new report published Thursday by a nonprofit that researches political violence and protests across the world. The Armed Conflict Location and Event Data Project analyzed more than 7,750 Black Lives Matter demonstrations in all 50 states and Washington, D.C. that took place in the wake of George Floyd's death between May 26 and August 22nd. The Armed Conflict Location and Event Data Project, ACLED, you should go to that website. It is a serious NGO that does great work covering violence around the world. Okay, more from Time Magazine. The ACLED report includes protests toppling statues of colonial figures, slave owners, and Confederate leaders as violent incidents. Since Floyd's killing, there have been at least 38 incidents in which demonstrators have significantly damaged or torn down memorials around the country, the report says. So when they say 93% of the protests have been peaceful, what they count as violence is the tearing down of Confederate statues. There was not a single Black Lives Matter protester who shot anybody, and no cops were injured by Black Lives Matter protesters. Fox News, Republicans love to talk about how the cops were injured by Black Lives Matter protesters. Every study, read the New York Times, every violent act at a Black Lives Matter protest was instigated by the police. Tens of millions of dollars have been paid out to protesters for the damages that the police did to the Black Lives Matter protesters. They were driving their cars into the protesters. This is from the Milwaukee Independent. Let me find this. Get a screen grab and share this. This is from the Milwaukee Independent from 2020. Pay attention to this. 25 active duty law enforcement officers have been shot and killed around the country so far this year. That would be 2020. 6 of those have occurred since the George Floyd protests began, but none have been directly related to the protests. Last year, 48 officers were shot and killed across the country. In 2018, 52 officers were shot and killed in the line of duty. That is an average of 1 officer each week over the past several years. Okay? No police officers were shot by any Black Lives Matter protesters. No police officers were killed by any Black Lives Matter protesters. Counter-protesters created violence, did the looting. And that's the real false flag operation that Alex Jones wouldn't dare talk about. Right? The agent provocateurs. This is the Washington Post. Again, different article. Given that protesters were objecting to extrajudicial police killings of Black citizens, protesters displayed an extraordinary level of nonviolent discipline, particularly for a campaign involving hundreds of documented incidents of apparent police brutality. The protests were extraordinarily nonviolent and extraordinarily non-destructive, given the unprecedented size of the movement's participation and geographic scope. So when Tim Scott says, I'm going to be the point man for the Republicans to get the black vote out, talk about the Black Lives Matter protests, Tim Scott. Black people know how the police behaved in 2020. Black people know exactly how the police behave all the time vis-a-vis black people. You want the black vote to go into the Republican column? There's no way black people are going to vote for Republicans who believe this.
We have Jamie Raskin in there accusing us of worshiping Trump, worshiping as a convicted felon. Well, yeah, so is George Floyd and everybody, and you all too. The media worship George Floyd. Democrats worship George Floyd. There were riots burning down the fucking country over George Floyd